Here's a question. Who actually eats the world's chocolate? You might picture a child, anywhere on Earth, unwrapping a bar, but the data tells a stranger story. Chocolate is grown almost entirely in the hot tropics, and it is eaten, overwhelmingly, by cold and wealthy people. These people live nowhere near a cocoa tree. The map of who devours it looks almost nothing like the map of who grows it. Today, we follow the chocolate. Now, let's begin with the country that eats more of it than anyone alive. Switzerland. 6 kilograms of chocolate every year. Think about that. That's more than 200 standard bars for every man, woman, and child. No country on Earth comes close to matching it. But why Switzerland? The answer is a near-perfect storm of three things. It is cold, it is rich, and in the 1800s, it got very good at making chocolate. A Swiss man named Daniel Peter worked out how to fold milk into chocolate in 1875. That invention built an industry, and the habit never left. Now, here is where the story gets interesting. Look just east to a small nation on the Baltic Sea. Estonia. Estonia is not famous for chocolate. It is far poorer than Switzerland and far smaller. And yet the average Estonian eats around 9 kilograms a year. That is more than the Germans, more than the Irish, more than almost anyone. The pattern is starting to show itself. Estonia is cold, dark in winter, and surrounded by neighbors who treat sweets as a national habit. Now, let's name that pattern out loud. Look at the top of the list, and you see one belt of countries again and again. Finland eats nearly 9 kilograms per person. So do Germany, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Norway, and Sweden. Every single one is cold, every single one is wealthy, and almost everyone spends long, dark winters indoors. Chocolate, it turns out, is a winter food dressed up as a treat. It is calories, warmth, and comfort, sold by the bar. Germany sits right at the heart of that cold, rich belt. The Germans eat chocolate the way other nations drink coffee. Steadily, daily, without ceremony, and their habit is propped up by something that data quietly rewards. Cheap, industrial, everywhere chocolate. When a bar costs less than a coffee, a nation can eat 9 kilograms a year and barely notice. Now, you would expect the richest large country on Earth to top this list. It does not. The United States eats roughly 5 kilograms of chocolate per person. That's about half the Swiss figure. America is enormous and wealthy, and it loves sugar. So what holds it back? Partly the weather. Much of America is warm, and chocolate famously hates the heat, and partly the competition. Americans have 1,000 other sweet things calling for their attention. Chocolate is one voice in a very loud room, so the warm and rich eat less than the cold and rich. Hold that thought, because now we go to where the numbers nearly vanish. China. In China, the average person eats around 200 grams of chocolate a year. Not 9 kilograms, 200 grams. That is a single small bar, stretched across 12 whole months. A Swiss citizen eats more chocolate in a week than a Chinese citizen eats all year. And it is not really about money. China has a vast, growing middle class that can easily afford a chocolate bar. The truth is simpler and stranger. The taste was never built. There is no deep tradition of dairy in much of Chinese cooking, so milk chocolate can taste oddly heavy to a palate raised without it. India tells almost the same story, at almost the same tiny number. India eats roughly 200 grams a head as well, more than a third of humanity, sharing a rounding error of the world's chocolate. Now we arrive at the part of the map that should trouble you. We have spent this whole journey in cold, rich nations, eating chocolate by the kilogram, but not one of them grows a single cocoa bean. So where does it all come from? It comes from here, West Africa. Around 70% of the world's cocoa is grown in a thin, hot band of countries near the equator, and one nation towers above the rest: the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast alone grows nearly half of all the cocoa on Earth. Add neighboring Ghana, and those two countries supply almost 60% of the planet's entire crop. The whole sweet machine rests on their shoulders. And now for the fact that turns this story cold. The roughly 2 million farmers who grow that cocoa are among the poorest people in the chain. Many earn under $2 a day. A great number of them have never tasted finished chocolate in their lives. They grow the world's favorite luxury, and they cannot afford to eat it. The people who make the sweetness do not get to taste it. Now, let's watch what happened when that fragile system finally cracked. For years, cocoa was cheap, and the world assumed it always would be. Then 2024 arrived. Disease, drought, and aging trees hammered the West African harvest, and the price exploded. Cocoa began 2024 trading near $4,200 a ton. By March, it smashed through $10,000 for the first time in history. By December, it touched nearly $12,600. The price roughly tripled in a single year. The cold, rich nations felt it as a slightly dearer chocolate bar. The farmers and the climate had been warning of this for decades. So let's stand back and look at the whole map one last time. The cold and the rich eat chocolate as if it grew in their own gardens. The hot and the poor grow it and rarely taste it. China and India, a third of all people, barely touch it at all. A bar of chocolate is not really a sweet. It is a small, edible map of the world. It shows you who has warmth to spare, who has money to burn, and who has neither, and grows it anyway. The data has a sense of humor, and on the subject of chocolate, it is not a sweet one.